My history of demons, Satan, or just plain evil has been with me since I was 6 years old. Ever since I was a kid. When I lie down for bed, it started with this fear of my ceiling, where the wall and the ceiling meet together. An uncontrollable feeling would come over me where I became paralyzed, head to toe, but as a kid, you think nothing of it. As I hit my 20s, my nights in bed have gone to the next level. When this paralyzed state would come, I felt massive pressure on my ankles and wrists. Last night, sorry, it scares me to even think about it because I don't ever want this again. And right now I have goosebumps on the top of my goosebumps. I live in an apartment and I sleep on an inflatable bed and always have a nightlight on. At 3:15 a.m., my room went black as black could get, and I felt someone laying on top of me. As the pressure stayed, my mattress slid slowly 2 feet until it pressed against the wall, which at the time, I was levitated about 2 inches off my mattress. I said in my head repeatedly to this encounter, "In the power of my God, Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." After repeating it 5 times, my body went limp, and the room went back to its lighting. I am a 38-year-old man, and I cried this morning for a full 15 minutes straight. I hope and pray no one experiences this kind of night terror. I'm scared for tonight. This is another occurrence from one of my previous places of employment. It was a Tuesday, and I was training the new dispatchers and officers on the fire alarm system. I would go floor to floor, activating different points to see how the dispatchers and officers responded. Anyway, to the point. The place was deserted except for the security and a few other employees in the basement. Everything was going like clockwork, so I thought I would throw a monkey wrench into their efforts by activating an obscure point in the kitchen. I got off the service elevator in the kitchen and noticed that housekeeping had just recently finished mopping the floors as it was still wet. With my ribs still sore from my previous experience and not wanting to slip and bust my butt, I was being very careful watching where I stepped. And as I was making my way to the back of the kitchen, I saw footprints on the floor. Now, this would not pique my interest, except for the fact that the footprints were made by bare feet. By now, you all know that I am as curious as a cat, so of course, I had followed them to see who was walking around barefooted in the kitchen. I followed them towards the salad station, and as I turned the corner, I saw the footprints forming on the wet floor. Nobody was in the kitchen but me, yet I was watching the footprints walk across the floor. But at first I thought it was a trick of the water drying, but the floor was still wet. No drying action. I followed them across the kitchen and watched them basically pass through and under a long station where the plates were stored and to the row of deep fryers where they disappeared. Other than surprise and curiosity, I didn't feel anything during this experience. I think it might have been a residual occurrence, as it didn't interact with me or anything. What do all of you think? Please, feel free to email me about this or any other of my experiences. Thanks for reading. My family and I have been in our house for 6 months now. Until this morning, the only experiences that have happened have been by my wife, which I have kind of disregarded and attributed to being in a new place. She says she felt uncomfortable and seen a few fleeting shadows here and there. 2 nights ago, we were relaxing in our living room. We both distinctly heard someone trying to open our back door. So much so that we both went for our firearms and fully expected to encounter someone in our backyard. Nothing. No one was there. Okay, so last night my wife got out of bed to get a drink from the kitchen, and the kitchen light was on. No biggie, she just forgot to turn the light out before coming to bed, so I thought. This morning, my world has been turned upside down. We awoke to every cupboard in our kitchen wide open. I have never experienced anything like this, and to be quite honest, I'm searching for some kind of logical explanation. Has anyone out there ever dealt with these kinds of experiences? My primary concern is this. We have an 11-year-old daughter with Rett syndrome who doesn't have the ability to communicate with us verbally. She doesn't walk, is wheelchair bound, and I'm worried how this will affect her. She doesn't have the ability to remove herself from any kind of bad situation or anything like that. What do we do? I am freaking out right now and desperately want to understand what's happening in my home. Any help, guidance, or recommendations anyone can provide would be tremendously appreciated. It was 2011. I was in 5th grade at the time. We had just moved to Alabama from North Carolina. We arrived in Phoenix City, a small town right on the border of Alabama and Georgia, next to Columbus. I walked into the house. It was beautiful with a nice fireplace, jacuzzi bathtub, outdoor pool, open kitchen, and best of all, enough bedrooms for me to have my own. I always spent about an hour or more hooking my dog Hudson up to his leash and walking him around our porch, which wrapped around the entire house. That night, I remember waking up around midnight. To this day, I still don't know what woke me. All I remember is being extremely scared. I got out of bed and slowly walked out to the hallway leading to the living room. All of a sudden, a weird feeling came over me. I felt like I was being watched from all directions. I sprinted to my mom's room and slept there for the night. About a month or so later, I was sitting in my room writing a song. I was a very creative kid. And out of nowhere, I heard a loud moaning sound coming from the ceiling. I stupidly looked around through my window thinking it was something outside. Then it happened again. Louder this time. I immediately ran out of the room. A full month after that, I slept on the couch in the living room. I was watching TV one day and I noticed a shadow come across the TV. I quickly turned around and it was my mother's boyfriend outside passing as he was smoking. As you can imagine, I was extremely relieved. A week later, the same thing happened. I turned around to see my mother's boyfriend outside again. After about 5 times of that happening, I saw a shadow once more. I assumed it was my mother's boyfriend, but I still turned around anyway. But this time, there was nobody. The boyfriend had left earlier to go to Walmart, and my mother was in the bathroom on the opposite side of the house. The happenings didn't stop there. A week later, I was laying on the couch watching the Upside Down show on Nick Jr., which isn't aired anymore, and the couch shook. It felt like something heavy had bumped into it, and I assumed it was Hudson. He was a big dog, a Great Dane, Catalua Hound mix, so he was pretty heavy. I reached my hand out from the other side of the sofa to pet him, when, to my dismay and surprise, he wasn't there. I looked back, only to see the back of the couch and the shaggy carpet. Towards the end of 2011, in September, we moved to another part of Alabama, about 30 minutes away from Phoenix City. It's now December 2nd, 2015, and I have not had one paranormal happening happen to me since then. This is my haunting. My fiancé, his brother, and his brother's friend are being attacked, haunted, tormented, whatever you want to call it, by a malicious and evil spirit. This is a long story, but I really need help. Please read. This story begins about 1.5 years ago down by the river. My fiancé, Alex, and his brother Billy, and their friend James, hung out almost the entire summer. Billy and James got bored one night and decided to go adventuring. The boys drove down the road and ended up stopping in front of an old, empty summer house. Billy and James broke into the house and thus began to wreak havoc. They smashed the furniture and electronics, broke windows and doors. James even went as far as to have sex on many of the beds. They made a crude Ouija board and tried to work it. They never stopped to think of what might be living in there that they couldn't see. Well, after about 2 weeks, the boys got bored and left the house alone. They forgot all about it. But the house didn't forget them. One day, Billy got bored and went out for a drive. He decided to drive past the abandoned home and see if anyone has found the vandalism yet. As he cruised by, Billy locked eyes with a pale little girl with eyes as black as coal. Billy felt a weird tingling and quickly turned his truck around and went home. His room wasn't quite the same after that. He began hearing bumps and groans in the night and early morning, and he'd see things out of the corner of his eyes. Things would become replaced. His iPod malfunctioned and died. Billy became disturbed and he begged Alex and James to go back up to the house to try to see if the little girl was there. They agreed and drove up there that night. When they arrived, the house was empty as usual. James and Billy went exploring in the house while Alex sat in the driveway. Well, of course the younger boys found something to wreck and they came out playing with a fire extinguisher. Eventually, they became bored and left, leaving the fire extinguisher in the yard. Arriving home, the boys went out to Alex's remodeled porch bedroom to hang out. A couple of minutes later, Alex complained of sharp pains in his back. James said his stomach was hurting. They went to the bathroom to investigate. Alex pulled up his shirt, and Billy and James gasped. There were long, bloody scratches down his back. James quickly pulled up his and found red handprints across his abdomen. Neither could explain. They never went back to that house again. One day I asked to go and we drove up there about 8 at night and I had brought my camera. The house was well lit by a streetlight and I had hoped for some great shots. I began to snap pictures rapidly, but the house wouldn't show up. Not even the glare of the streetlights. All I got was black pictures and weird orbs floating next to where the house should have been in the pictures. We were all scared then. That was the beginning. 5 months passed quietly, a few bumps in the night here and there, but nothing major. Things always picked up again when we were home alone at night. We all sat in Billy's room, and it was about 11. We had turned out all the lights and were laying on a bed talking. Then all of a sudden, there was a loud bang. It made us jump, and we rushed out of the bedroom into the living room, where we found a FedEx box 15 feet from where it was laid originally, and all doors were open and all lights were on. We ran outside and sat in the car until it was time for me to return home. Things got quiet again, but not too quiet. Things still moved and there were still doors flying open at 1 and 2 in the morning and blinking electricity. We didn't think much of it. Alex and Billy got the great idea to record voices one night. They lit a candle and began to record. It was about 2 in the morning. They just asked random questions and were pretty much making a joke out of it. Alex reached over from his easy chair to hand Billy the recorder when he said an invisible force slammed his head onto the coffee table. The boys became very scared and ran to Billy's room. They sat in the middle of the bed and they said they heard laughing, and it sounded like heavy footsteps running all throughout the house. The boys slept in the same room that night. When they woke up, Billy's closet doorknob was about torn clean off. This is the part where things have been getting really weird lately. Billy saw something in his pantry. It was white and transparent, and when it turned to look at him, it was an old woman with no eyes and an open mouth. I have been receiving text messages from their dead great-grandmother, Vera. I have never met her, and I do know her spirit dwells in that house. I have seen her. She sends me texts at the same time every night, and this started about 3 days ago. She usually sends them about 3 every morning. The first one said, Vera guard gone, soldier lonely pain. The second one said, boys will suffer for lengths, warn, listen. Protect, please. And the final one that I received this morning said, emotion, stress, weaken, strengthen, suicide. I had no idea what to make of all of this. I finally got the guts to text back and said, why me? Why do I protect? She replied, no. 6 times. And then I replied, why me? She sent me the last text I've received so far. You love him. And family. The weird part is that they are coming from Alex's phone, but none show up on his phone, and we even pulled up the records and they aren't there either. I don't know how to react to all of this. I would like help. Thank you for reading. Did you guys like those stories? I got a text message. Ignore it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing this little series for, a while until I finish all the states in alphabetical order. So that's why I did Alabama first. So if you guys have any stories from your home state or from the state you're living in, send it to me, email it to me, please, and put like your state in like the title of the email so I can open it and know, so I can mark it in my brain. Yeah. All right. So please do that. Okay, guys. And don't forget, as always, my last video will be on the top left. My next video will be on the bottom left. All of my social medias will be on the screen as well as in the description. And remember, guys, there's always someone or something watching you.